Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI Saturday tier for the summer season Australian Grand Prix Round 5. It's the Maxon currently leading the way. Edvir to P2, Selkin P3, Jericho Willis, Igapro and Tom in P6. Tom racing as a reserve in the Ferrari car for today's race. Other than that, everybody else, actually Edvir is also reserving for Williams. Let's get it into turn 11. Still Sir Maxon ahead. We go to Edvir and that is a fairly nice advantage that Sir Maxon has. One shot qualifying, the pressure's on. You have to get it right, almost invalidating the lap and somehow not. I don't understand how they didn't actually, but DRS is available over the grass a little bit in the final corner, but enough is enough, and across the line is a 15-1, a 16-1 for Igapro, who jumps up at the last second, and then it's Edvir, Selkin, Jericho Willis. Jericho and Tom both DSQing from the qualifying order in the end. And that is the one-shot qualifying done. It's Sir Maxon on pole position. It's Igapro in P2 and Edvir in P3. That is the rest of the grid. The race director is on your screen now. And we'll be back in a bit for the sprint race. Of course, we do have a slightly smaller grid, but we can still have a great race nonetheless. And it looks like we can get just that. We'll see you in a bit. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to get it into turn 1? The Aston Martin on the inside line. Sir Maxon still gets a pretty good launch, but it is going to be Igapro trying to have a fight. It's not going to quite work out, but it was very, very well held by both drivers to keep that one clean at turn 1. Edvir defending hard to the inside, then go back to the outside, and it's the McLaren of Jericho Willis who goes flying through. I don't know what just happened there. There's a little bit of contact continuing as Jericho Willis drops back behind. I don't know what was happening, but it's happened, and the top two are breaking away already. Jericho Willis not going to be happy with what just went on, as it was a little bit crazy, it looked like, but we continue. Tom pushing Selkin to the limit and looking to try and get the overtake done. It seems that they have to back off as they realise that that Sauber is not going to be so easy to fight with. And you see the top two running away with it a little bit, and then there is kind of a bit of a train forming between the next two cars and the two cars after that, but it's Tom unfortunately spinning at the fast chicane. Easily done. Cold tyres in the early stage, hard tyres as well, of course. It's always going to be tough. Igapro and Edvir both on the medium tyre. So Maxon's looking forward to the end of this sprint race then, as the mediums are only going to get slower. They're still going to be pretty quick right now, and Igapro could give the pole a chance at a battle, but it might dissipate pretty quickly. Jericho Willis-Selkin and Edveer all racing one another very closely right now. 1.9 seconds away from the cars in front, and the Williams leads the charge in the second train. That is Tom Robb speeding into the pit lane, unfortunately, as it's very, very easy to get it wrong here in Australia. Walls are tight to your left and right, and that's why it's so tricky. In the meantime, we've seen Edveer drop back from the top two, but also gain time on the two cars behind as Jericho Willis was dropping back a little bit. DRS is on its way back in. Actually, no, it's not available. But it is available for it. So that was maybe a bit of a situation that we've got here with Edveer possibly going on some pretty high downforce wings, or a big mistake as they came onto the middle DRS straight, I guess, because they just lost a lot of time when they were out of DRS range from Jericho Willis for a moment. These three continue to chase each other down. 8/10 isn't easy, and it's not fun to look at when you see the car ahead breaking that 8/10 margin, but when you do break it or bring it back down into DRS, it is going to be so much sweeter. Eager Pro, would they try and have a go at making a move to give some sort of throw at Sir Maxon in a lap or so? I don't know. But it's not going to get any easier, so if they do want to do something, they have to do it now or never. Jericho Willis will be looking at making a move. Eager Pro, we watch on board to see where they are relative to Sir Maxon, and you can watch the car breaking away. That Haas is almost a mile away now, but it's Jericho Willis who's pushing on the battery very early to get the job done and then have the DRS to break further. Selkin will catch up as Edveer doesn't have DRS, and they'll continue to stay within DRS range. I believe we double check the back of that car, and they do so, and they are now going to get the double run here. A brilliant overtaking opportunity there for the Sauber, and they continue to try and hold on to Jericho Willis, but Jericho Willis has got an opportunity to break away here. That being said, they have lost a lot of battery from that attempt at getting past. Did they just miss out on DRS range? Did Selkin? I think they must have, surely. They do go and get the rear wing open though, so very lucky, as they did have a pretty big loss of traction and balance through that final complex of corners. Now these two follow the McLaren car with the DRS wide open. It's Eager Pro who's still trying to put the pressure on the past car, but the hard tyre isn't going to be easy at all for Eager Pro. Should be fairly quick for the next 2 laps, pretty much even for the following lap, and then lap 6 and after it's going to be pretty difficult. Still not looking to try and overtake at the moment. I feel like Eagle's working with Sir Maxon to try and extend the gap beyond the 3-second margin, which they have done so they can secure a time penalty range over the cars behind and not have any pressure. In the meantime, we have seen a breakaway from Jericho Willis, and no DRS is available now to the Sauber, so it will be a battle between the Williams and the Sauber car. Selkin and Edveer, both new drivers to LSI, will now have to battle it out. Of course, ahead of Tom, who will be looking to score 2 points in this sprint race, as you get 1 point for P1, but for P8 and 8 points for P1. DRS available for Edveer, but I really do believe that this is a very high downforce setup on the Williams car that isn't working out so well for them in the straights. They were very quick when they were ahead and they were able to battle in the corners, but if we just look at the straight line speed now, 6/10 it is to Edveer and Selkin. DRS will open up, and maybe I'm completely wrong actually. Maybe Edveer's just not really pushing that much, but it's staying as it is. Even with DRS and ERS, it's only a slight gain that Edveer has. It's not going to be easy, of course, to catch up, but we saw how quickly Jericho Willis was able to make a move and get through. Then it was pretty impressive. That's a big off there for Edveer, and that's going to be DRS lost as well, unless they are very lucky to maintain it. But a massive understeer moment as they just broke a little bit too late. It looked like in turn 11. Does lose them out a big chance at making any kind of overtake with that rear wing. And that's going to be that done. Unless Sulkin makes a mistake now, then DRS may not be possible to regain. And I say that because you get double detection here. You won't get a DRS if you didn't get it on the start-finish straight on this straight. And locking up the rears there is Edvir trying to push to the absolute limit. You also get double DRS detection. Oh, a little bit later on, but over the curb. And it's going to go completely sideways. Edvir is down the order, and they're going to have to try and stay in front of Tom. They could stay out on track despite having a little bit of damage to that car. But it's whether they will want to or if they decide to go into the pit lane, as that is still a 43-second margin that they have to Tom, and they can afford to do so. That is Tom pushing on the slightly fresher tyres. It's Maxon, who's now broken away a lot by Igapro, as Igapro's tyres are starting to drop off. And I don't know if they've just dropped off hard or there's been a mistake from Igor. I would assume there's going to be some sort of mistake, because that 2.9 seconds is a huge difference in just a few laps, and they lost effectively a second to Jericho Willis. At this stage, Igapro has to make sure that they don't get any time penalties, as we see Tom Robb go over the track limits a little bit too much. And as long as they don't get any time penalties, then Igapro does have a chance to make this work quite nicely. I don't see Jericho Willis catching up despite this hard tyre getting faster and faster. But of course, if Igapro does get a time penalty, then Jericho Willis does have a chance, because they're only a tenth and a half away from catching up in that circumstance. P5 for Edvir right now, going onto the soft tyre. So looking for a fast lap here, although you don't score any points for a fastest lap. Those tyres are going to be pretty difficult to manage, as they are effectively a qualifying tyre, and they die pretty much after that. Tom, with a time penalty and on 5-lap old medium tyres, is going to do their best, but maybe that soft tyre will be able to go for just enough time to make it work. And Igapro is now at risk of time penalty range from Jericho Willis, as they will continue to catch up. And we just wait to see what's going on. Right now though, Maxon leading the way by a decent margin and looking to just secure the championship over any other car. Zingy does have a close amount of points to the Scotsman. Zingy does have a close amount of points to Maxon. However, they are a reserve driver, so the chances of them even being able to class themselves as a permanent driver and compete in the final race for the championship would be very slim. So Samaxon, especially as he isn't here today, is solidifying their efforts of achieving the championship, the Drivers' Championship in both the Friday and Saturday tier. The team's championship goes to McLaren as of now, and it looks like it's going to stay that way, especially with Jericho Willis continuing to drive to defend their title. Unfortunately, we don't see Heischler, as they are joining another race at the moment. But luckily, Jericho Willis is there for the team to get the points. And now we see that 2.5 second gap become a thing as they continue to catch. Got 1.5 laps remaining. And we see Jericho Willis on a mission. And they do see the Aston Martin just up ahead. What an impressive opportunity or overtake it would be if they were able to break this gap down and give it a go. But 2.1 seconds, Eager Pro knows that that's enough of a gap to slow down and eke out over the final lap. Lock up there for Jericho Willis isn't going to gain too much, but a 1 second gap before DRS is available, and then they have to overtake. Jericho Willis has effectively got to be 1.5 to, well, no, 2 seconds a lap faster than Eager Pro at this point as we reach the final lap of the Grand Prix in order to have any kind of question at going for a move. And it's not going to be easy at all. Eager Pro will be well aware of what they need to do to defend from the McLaren behind, despite having pretty old tyres. 1.7 seconds. As long as they keep it away from DRS range right there, it should be theirs. And Eager Pro will be feeling much more comfortable now as they're halfway through the final lap. Jericho Willis has given it a very good effort. Sulkin was there in the battle for a period. Unfortunately, that has been brought down, but it does seem to be the hard tyre. It's the faster tyre here in the overall race. And Jericho Willis pushing to the limit will unfortunately not do enough. And as the tyres get better and better for the hard tyre, it's going to be Maxon dominating the sprint race for the Saturday tier. They win in Australia once more. It's Eager Pro who will come round the next couple of corners, and it's Jericho Willis pushing with all their might and making a mistake. They won't lose out. They shouldn't lose out. Oh no, they've run out of fuel. They've run out of fuel. They shouldn't have lost out to Sulkin, but they ran out of fuel. I thought they spun the car, but they didn't. I do not believe it. And in the summer season, again, a McLaren runs out of fuel up to the line. Before it was Heischler, and this time it's Jericho Willis losing out to the podium in the end. That is brutal stuff. Jericho Willis will hopefully not fall short of fuel by the time we get to the next race, for the main race of course. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a bug with the result there, as Jericho Willis has dropped down the order, but they will finish in P4. So Maxon's going to be happy with that one, scoring another 8 points. So Maxon takes victory for the sprint race. It's Eager Pro in P2, and it's Sulkin in P3. Edfir, Tom Robb, and Jericho Willis. The fastest lap goes to Sir Maxon also. And that is the order, and we will be back in a little bit for the qualifying session, about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see you then. Hello everyone and welcome back once again. We're here for full qualifying, ready for the main race. It is full wet in this session, as you can see some Exxon drifting the car around the circuit on the intermediate tyre, as well as Jericho Willis, who's about to start their lap. Everybody else on the wet tyre, it is full wet conditions, and the full wets may be quicker for the first lap or so, but then the intermediates will get much quicker as we continue to progress. It is Maxon drifting their way through, and they will set their lap first, as EagerPro hasn't validated on their first run, and clearing the water in the early stages. Oh, and a big mistake right there. It's going to be Maxon who continues on their lap and actually blocks Selkin in the end. They tried to set it. Still, Selkin's going to have a few words, I'm sure. In theory, Maxon was still on a lap, so they had every right to do that. But Selkin is not going to be happy with what just went on there. Tom goes faster by a couple of tenths, and that would have been the difference there with Selkin's lap. Of course, that being said, the intermediate tyre is only going to get quicker and quicker as this session does go on, and it's going to be Jericho Willis up to set a lap next, and it will be Jericho Willis looking to try and go top. It does seem very tricky on this intermediate tyre right now. Still continuing. Maybe it's not quite ready for the inters just yet, and those full wets are the tyre to be on. But there it is, Jericho ahead of Maxon, who had a few mistakes in their lap. So far the wets are the quickest tyre. It is EagerPro sending it into the final sector now and locking up the rears to get that rotation. Lovely stuff there from the serve. DRS is not available. It's just a run up to the line with the battery deployed as you try to charge through. On the 31.5, a huge margin EagerPro has. Track Evolution will have kicked in a little bit, but that was a very nice lap. We could see as soon as we got onto the screen, or onto their onboard, they were sliding the car through, dancing it through the circuit instead of just driving. Edgar looks to try and do something here. The man from the Netherlands in the wet conditions driving the Williams car, starting their lap. See what they can do. First corner, going to gain a lot of lap time if you get it right, but if you do get it wrong, you lose everything, and there is that one done. The lap is all over already. Edgar can continue on this lap to try and set at least something if they would like to, but blocking the front tyres, still a little bit too early for peak performance on the inters. So Maxon's looking for a wet tyre at this point, and I think they might be leaving the pit lane on that wet tyre as well. Jericho Willis has continued, and they're going on with a full battery right here. An intermediate tyre, 34.1, a long way away from EagerPro's fastest time. And that is the yellow in the first or final part of the lap, as I think EagerPro is going slowly into the pit lane. So Maxon is now on the wet tyre, looking to try and go fastest as they can. This intermediate tyre does seem tricky. That is a purple sector, 7 tenths up right now for Jericho Willis. It wouldn't put them anywhere near EagerPro, but we'll see how much time they can gain here in the middle sector as well. Shouldn't be much, because you don't pass through a massive amount of corners. 3-tenth gain in that middle sector alone. Trying to get on the throttle as soon as possible, and now this is where you gain a lot of lap time. Jericho Willis is going to continue on this lap to try and charge ahead, at least ahead of the car directly in front of them, if not to P2. P1 might be a little bit of a stretch. You can see how much they're having to slow down for turn 12 relative to what EagerPro was doing and sliding the car through instead. Oh, very tricky on the rear end. A big twitch, and they're going to lose some performance all the way up to the line. It's a long run there. It's a 2-second gain. It's a 32.0, and the Inters are definitely getting there. So Maxon, precautionally, is going out on the Inters, of course, but it does seem to be, to me, going out on the wet as a precaution. It does seem to be that the intermediate tyre will be fastest a little bit later on. Edvir going once again. 2 seconds up on their previous best. And we'll need a little bit more than that in this final section, but lots of opportunities to gain lap time here in this final sector. With all the corners they have to travel through, with all the traction zones they have to weave their way into. The chicane is theirs. And then the finish line is now theirs. The cross and lap time will be a 35.1, 2.7 seconds, 7 seconds gained in that final sector alone. Not actually as much as they gained elsewhere in the lap. Just shows that the intermediate tyre is still very tricky to drive with at the moment. It's Jericho Willis who is starting another lap on this intermediate tyre before going into the pit lane just yet. It's going to be Igapro on an out lap, and then it's going to be Samaxon who looks to set their first lap here on this wet tyre. And what can they do? You can see how much quicker they're going on this blue wall tyre. Trying to get the rear turns in. They continue to dance. DRS, ERS, Track Evolution. What's it going to be for Samaxon? A 31.1 over Igapro's lap time. That's a brilliant job done indeed. And now they might just be seen waiting in the pit lane for the final moment. Igapro, of course, out on track and going again. And we don't want to say that it will be over for Samaxon for qualifying, because they will want to stay out and clear some water on the track, otherwise they'll end up just being completely screwed by the time they do want to set a quick lap time. So now it will be as it is. Edvir goes around once more, and it's going to be on a full battery to start another lap, try and improve further and see if they can get some positions this time. It's Jericho Willis in P3 at the moment. Oh, a big snap on the back on the steering right there as they're on full uphold intermediate tyres, and it's going to be the pit lane for them. Very, very good call indeed. Will we see Jericho out on the wet tyre? Will we see them continue on the inters? I think they're going to commit to their strategy. You can bring in a little bit deep into the chicane there. They exit. Smooth on the throttle, working away at the steering wheel. It's DRS and not available, as I said, but it is P1, a 30.963. Lovely stuff indeed. 2 tenths ahead of the pole, who's going once again on another lap. 35.0 right there for Samaxon on the warm-up lap. All over the place in the second corner, but still keeping it together quite smoothly. And Samaxon will look to push for pole on this lap, I think, and then they can try and risk it on the intermediate tyre. Jericho Willis has put on a fresh set of intermediate tyres, and of course Edvir is currently on that set of inters, very close to the walls. We just saw that for Samaxon 4 tenths up right now, still looking at a provisional pole. As long as they keep it fairly clean. Opening up the steering compared to what you usually do in the dry conditions as you minimise that distance. By opening up the steering, you allow the traction to be in a little bit more of a comfortable balance. What you could see just there. Now into the braking zone, heavy braking, trying to use the rear to drift its way into the corner a little bit. Onto the curbs despite the wet conditions to gain everything they can. Dabbing that inside curb at 12 as well. Oh, a little bit too harsh on the grass, and that is going to be lap done for Samaxon into the pit lane, they will call it. And they'll come out one more time for another few laps. And it's Egapro who goes around once more. Edvir back into the pit lane, actually. Salkin staying on the wet tyre here. Jericho Willis is leaving the pit lane on the intermediate. Egapro potentially looking to stay on this tyre for the rest of the session. They did put earlier on. They are pushing on this lap. Try and defend their current pole position. Very, very squirmy on the exit of 6 there, unfortunately. That's not going to gain them any lap time. Close to the grass on the right-hand side, but staying just away from it. And then waiting for the straight section to end, and they can get back into the corners to try and gain some more lap time on the throttle. Trying to find the grip where it shouldn't be in these conditions. As we continue to see Jericho Willis, the only driver on the intermediate tyre. We've got Samaxon waiting in the pit lane for the right time to leave to maximise their performance in this session. But it's Egapro who continues here. Oh, a little bit over the sausage curb. And that's going to lose them some lap time here. Keeping it just about in a straight line though, and using the battery all the way up. Egapro looks to improve, and they do so by 0.7 of a second. And now that is a decent margin that they've got, almost a second ahead of Samaxon, who leaves the pit lane once again on a fresh set of wet tyres. Samaxon leaving it to the last second to use every bit of track evolution they can and have the freshest tyres possible. Will Samaxon be able to fight it back, or will they do what they did just a few moments ago and lose it all in the final sector before they can really make it count? That is going to be an invalidation from Jericho Willis off the marks there for their qualifying efforts. But we're going to watch and see as they go over the sector line to see if they're continuing to push to keep these tyres warm and see what they're doing lap time wise. 1.7 seconds. They are slowing down, so they're not going full pace at this stage of the session. It's Salkin, P5 at the moment. So far hasn't seen an intermediate tyre on their car, up by a second on the Delta, almost off track limits there on the exit of the dip. They're just staying away. Second wouldn't be enough to get them ahead of Tom, but they've still got a long way off this lap to go. 1.1 seconds is now the gap that they've got. That's a yellow for Jericho Willis, who is, I hope, trying to slow down to set themselves up for their final attempt with Egapro's in the pit lane, and that is their qualifying session done. Samaxon will be the next one to compete for pole position as their P2. Jericho Willis is going to try their best. Zelkin is about to finish their lap here in qualifying. No final complex. Up to the line, and it's P2. 2.7 seconds in the end, and they currently sit in P2. Egapro still ahead by a bit, but nicely in front of Samaxon. Samaxon, half a second up. We go over the sector line as they're absolutely flying around the circuit here. 9/10 up, and currently on cue to get ahead of Egapro, just about. They've got another sector to try and get everything back. If they don't, then they do risk, of course, losing out a little bit more, but they will definitely not start on the front row of the grid with the Sauber and the Aston Martin, who are currently ahead. The final chicane where they lost it all earlier on, they've got through it now. The final corner is upon the row, and it's just a run to the line, dart it on the battery. What's it going to be? Samaxon crosses the line, and it's pole position at 29.516. A brilliant effort and a brilliant improvement. Tom to P4 ahead of Jericho Willis. Jericho Willis here is improving on the intermediate tyre. Is it going to be enough to compete for pole position as they were hoping? They forced themselves onto this strategy, and they have actually really done incredibly well. Oh, what a shame to just miss out by the tiniest margin of 5.92. A 5.92 ahead of Eager Pro. Eager Pro is not on the front row of the grid as they were for the sprint. It's Selkin in P4, it's Tom in P5, and it's Edvir who's still got a little bit to go here in the final sector as they creep around. But they're not going to be able to compete for pole position. So that is going to be their qualifying complete. And they will improve by 9/10, but not enough to get ahead of any car and start P6. So Maxon, though, on pole position here in Australia once more. It looked a little bit doubtful for a moment, and then it looked like they had it easily. And then Jericho Willis put some pressure on, but there was no one else to fight on the intermediate tyre anyway. And that is qualifying all done here in Melbourne. So Maxon is on pole position. It's Jericho Willis. Oh, it's another lap. They got another lap in. And they improve again. I didn't even realise they were going again. A 29.1 to add a little bit more to it as well to secure the pole. Wow. I completely missed that one right there. Very well done from Sir Maxon. And that is qualifying complete. So Maxon's on pole position. Jericho Willis in P2 and Eager Pro in P3. That's the race director just in case. And we'll be back for the race. We'll see you in a bit. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to get it into turn one? The McLaren on the front row this time. It's Sir Maxon who will still be there for P1 at turn one. Oh, there's contact between the two. There's big crash. Further behind and Selkin with damage in the opening stages. I do not believe it. Edvir is up immediately. Tom ahead of Eager Pro, of course, as that issue just occurred right there. I don't think there's any damage for the McLaren. There's no damage for Eager Pro either. Somehow only one car has suffered from this one, and that is incredibly frustrating right there for the Sauber car, because now they're 3.7 seconds away already and they're going to have to make an extra pit stop. That is Eager Pro going ahead of Tom, who makes a mistake on the exit of 6. And we now get all of the data on the screen. That's actually the hard tyre as well for Salkin to rub it in even further. They're on the tyre that you don't want to crash on. If you want to crash, you want to be on the softer compound, and that is just going to make their race even more difficult. I do feel sorry for them right now, but I don't feel sorry for this man. 3.8 seconds they have advantage already. A brilliant, brilliant effort right now. Working hard at the pace and getting the performance out of the car that they want. They're just going to try and see the race off to the end. Edveer leads the way, and they've got pressure from Jericho Willis, who had that incident earlier on. We didn't get a very good view of it, so we can't say too much at this stage. DRS is not just available yet, but it will be available in a few corners' time. Jericho Willis will try and have a go at the Williams before Eager Pro tries to have a go at them. Running the lovely chrome McLaren here today, and hoping that maybe that will distract a few cars around them and cause a crash or two from their rivals. Really, you don't want your rivals to crash. You want to beat them fair and square, and beating them fair and square on DRS is Jericho Willis, who gets ahead, and Eager Pro is likely to try and follow as they go to the outside line. The Williams tried to go a little bit defensive, but it was a bit too late, and that will be the switch. The double overtake there for Jericho Willis and Eager Pro combined. That might have been track limits there for the Serbian, who does seem to go pretty aggressive, and that was a 3 second already for Samakton as well. So 3 second time penalty already for the race leader on lap 2, which isn't ideal, but when you're 5.6 seconds away on lap 2 as there's battling behind, you don't need to worry about too much. Eager Pro does need to worry about that, as they are with a pack of cars. They're not leading at this stage. Jericho Willis is the lead car of this pack. Edfield, of course, getting that double overtake to be done on them. I think they may have had some sort of thing to say with their setup and lowering the downforce slightly, as they didn't have the performance in the straight line earlier on. Tom is now having a second opportunity of being in the pack. It is a fresh tyre there for Sulkin on the previous lap, and a fresh front wing. They will continue to drive for as long as they can in this race as they see fit, see what they can do. It's a shame, but at the same time, it's early in the game cycle and every lap counts as to when you want to gain experience. And in a race scenario, in a race lobby, even though you may not be racing a car, there's nothing more useful than getting perfect conditions for a multiplayer session. So Maxon's now 2.6 seconds in the lead of the Grand Prix, take away 3 to make it 3.3 now because of that time penalty. And then it is Jericho Willis who's got pressure from behind, and it's once again Eager Pro very close to track limits and almost getting themselves in a bit of trouble. DRS available for the Aston Martin, but not willing to overtake into turn 1. They would prefer to overtake into either turn 3 or on the back straight, first back straight. Tom unfortunately just losing out to the DRS range. These cars ahead are in their training course, working together and braking, well, not breaking away, but pulling each other along. There's a hit the wall there for Jericho. Wouldn't have seen too much from that. A very light tap, a slight bit of damage, but a big off right there. And Eager Pro will fly through. DRS available, and Edvin might have an opportunity if they really push on the back two, but they don't have enough left, and they will have to sit behind in the end. But that was very lucky to keep it away from too much there for Jericho Willis. That might have been a track limit there actually for the American, and it is great momentum still regardless of the situation for the Williams, but no overtake will be made. Now Jericho now has allowed Eager Pro to be in clean air up ahead, and of course they've just lost a bit of momentum by going off the circuit, so they have to focus, they have to make sure that they don't get their head in a bit of a twist. And forget about what just happened. Now they've got DRS, and they have an opportunity to compete still with Egafro. Or still both drivers very close to the track limit. If they continue like this, Edbert will be ahead of them on net position with 19 of these included, of course. Egafro, P2, 8 seconds away from Schumacher now as they continue to break away massively. Jericho Willis will regain any gap that they lost from earlier on. But then will suffer in the corners due to dirty air. And they say the general rule of thumb is once you're 4 tenths behind another car, you really feel the dirty air. And what you can often see is a few cars will drop back to 5 tenths and then send it into the following corner to make it work. That was a mistake there for Tom, unfortunately, off at turn 11, and that's a yellow flag for them going slowly. Damage on the front end plate, I think left and possibly right as well. Yep, there is completely wing loss on the, or a bit more wing loss on the right hand side. The pit lane is pulled out for the German driver, who unfortunately finds a bit of difficulty in this race. First retirement of the race, that's in the pit lane, so no safety car will be deployed. And we'll be good to continue as ever. Stay with one another, but not impossible as long as you keep consistent. See how this one goes for these three here. Now, I do apologise if there's any more mic issues. I thought I fixed them, but it still seems to be a little bit tricky. In the meantime, we have the tenths behind, and equally Jericho behind Igor. There's currently some action who started from pole position leading the way, getting a time penalty in the first 2 laps of the race, but not really worrying about that considering they are around 10 seconds ahead already. And it's Eager Pro who started not on the front row. Jericho Willis having a bit of a tricky turn 1 whilst trying to go side by side with Samaxon, ending up spinning half into half Selkin. No one else received damage. Selkin had to pit. Tom was with the battle that we're watching right now, had a little bit of an issue, and unfortunately was taking the decision to retire from the race early on. That is the rundown, and now we continue to see the battle between these three here. And not only overtakes will be crucial, but track limits, stay ahead of one another will be crucial as well, of course. And we've seen a few of these three flirting with track limits on a couple of occasions, so we do believe that maybe 1 or 2 of them are on the limit with the stewards, and they could be in trouble. And that's an overtake attempt here for Jericho Willis. Continues to push, tries to gain some extra lap time, as it's going to be Edver who will have DRS and catch up a little bit. The Eager Pro, but is going to lose a lot of momentum from this, so they've got to push with everything they can. But it's not going to be so simple. They gain some back into the corner, of course, but they've not got much back free. They are lucky that Pro didn't take the racing line. Pro, by not taking the racing line, lost a lot of momentum into the far chicane. And just going to quickly have a look at a technical issue and we'll be back. Thank you very much for your patience, and we are finally here again. Wasn't too long, but in the meantime we have seen Edvit lose the DRS range, or just stay within, but lose probably DRS range on the following lap from the two battling up in front. Not impossible to regain, of course. Now these guys are going to be on their own. They might be a little bit more inclined to fight each other, become complacent. That's where Edvit can gain as long as they don't give up here. Pro is going to push Jericho to the limit. Jericho Willis, the reigning LSI 1.5 champion. Pro, the Season 2 driver champion in LSI F1. Winning for Ferrari, taking many race wins across their entire career as well. DRS available for Serb. Edvit does lose out. Of course, DRS trains are crucial around this circuit. And if you do lose out to the DRS train, then you're only going to lose out further because you can gain so much by being behind another car here. The Pro still not looking to try and push and overtake Jericho Willis. Alright, we'll try and make sure that we've really got this audio situation fixed by the time we get to the next race, but I do really apologise for the issues. We have tried physical changes now, and it still seems to be a bit of an issue, doesn't it? Once again, we do apologise, but we do still have a race to watch. And I will continue to commentate despite the suboptimal issues. No, Pro into the wall. Oh no, damage to the car. Edvit will go through. And there is the battle done. Jericho Willis will relax. And they now have a 3.4 second advantage for the car behind. As Pro is going to have to take it to the pit lane in a couple of laps' time. Luckily for them, they're not too far away from the pit window, but they might decide to stay out. No, they do go immediately into the pit lane. Edvit will also go in just ahead. But Samaxon, with the gap that they have, doesn't feel it necessary to go into the pit lane any earlier than they need to. So they will stay put out in the lead. That being said, you can't leave it too late, because by going for an undercut, you can gain a lot of lap time around this circuit. Something like 3 seconds, 4 seconds. We'll go for one more attempt at fixing the situation once we've seen some pit stops be done by some other cars. And then we'll do that, and then we'll be back. And then we'll try and take it to the end of the race with the audio that we have. So Maxon, who we expect to go into the pit lane in a couple of laps time, but they do actually go now immediately and do a very standard strategy, no stress at all. I think we'll see Jericho Willis follow accordingly as well. It makes sense for them to do so. Sulkin might even do the same. We see the Aston Martin up ahead, but can't really do much about their situation. Jericho Willis has been driving with damage the entire time, so it's going to look to go even faster, but they might lose their position to Edveer by the time they leave the pit lane. Edveer is going to go ahead, and they will be P2 by the time they get to turn 1, and it's going to be Eager Pro who's going to have a brilliant advantage, as Jericho Willis will have cold tyres, a bit more of a warmer situation for Igor. They're going to try and gain even further. 2 seconds, 1.9, 1.8. I think it will stay at 1.8 whilst we get through the next few corners, but now they've got to push with all their might to try and catch up to the Aston, to the McLaren. All right, we're back. We're once again back, and hopefully that helps a little bit with the audio. Temporarily, at least. Jericho Willis, who's trying their best to stay ahead of Eager Pro, 1.6 seconds. A little mistake here or there allowed Eager Pro to bring that a bit further. But Edveer, with no damage and no spin, has now found themselves in front of these cars and now in P2. 16.4 seconds away from Sir Maxon though, who pitted a lap later. He didn't fall short for the undercut, but has just got a lot of pace in that car. We're about halfway into this race now with the race leader. And I don't know if the audio issues are any better, but it's the only thing that we can do. Eager Pro now 1.5 seconds behind. Slowly but surely closing in. That being said, the back three is minimal. Whereas Jericho Willis is managing his situation a little bit better. Going over track limits pretty hard though. I don't know if they extended or not. We've got to keep an eye on it. 2.2 seconds. They've got pressure to push up to Edveer. Edveer's got pressure to keep the McLaren behind for as long as possible. And Eager Pro will be able to benefit from that if that does happen. It's Sir Maxon who gets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as they have these fresh hard tyres. .7 seconds, Igor starts to lose out as the battery management comes into play, and Jericho Willis continues to force pressure on the Williams up in front. Formerly a Williams driver in F1.5, now moved to McLaren. They've won a championship with the McLaren team in the F1.5 tier. And they've got many podiums with the McLaren team in every tier. But it's now DRS range for Jericho Willis. But it's going to depend on EagaPro, or for EagaPro, it's going to depend on what Edvir decides to do. Are they going to try and fight the McLaren from getting any further through, or are they going to let them go? If they let them go, they can potentially use Jericho Willis's pace to break away from EagaPro. But if they also let them go, they risk losing out a lot just in case Jericho Willis is able to break away further. If they break away further, then they lose the position immediately. Right now, they don't have a choice with DRS and ERS being used by the McLaren driver. And they'll continue to break away with DRS. Some ERS will be used by Edvir to make sure that they minimise the damage loss from no DRS being available to them. And as they push Jericho Willis, you see the big gain to EagaPro that they both managed to find. Now that's just about DRS here for Edvir, but in that final sector, Jericho Willis has it nailed down, has the strategy of to take the corner, but into turn 3 there'll be another dose of DRS for the Williams car, and that's going to help them catch back up to Jericho. DRS will be available for the rest of this lap, I assume, and EagaPro is going to only suffer from this. So Edvir not fighting, trying to hold on. It's not going to be easy, but they are able to extend a little bit from EagaPro by doing this method. It does mean that they throw a potential fight for P2, but they do slightly more solidify a podium position. DRS was gained just about, and they'll gain even more time on EagaPro. As you can see, if you look on the delta, in a straight line, when DRS is available, there is nothing EagaPro can do other than watch the delta just extend and extend and extend. It goes down to half a second, it goes back up as Jericho Willis is mighty in this part of the circuit. But I don't think it's going to go up enough to lose them the DRS and to make it possible for Igor to gain back more. We could see that Igor was very, very quick and arguably the quicker car, but now with the train working its magic, they're going to struggle. That being said, Edvir now has used their battery, and they're going to have less answers to Jericho Willis' pace when trying to hold on to DRS range. Lap 18 out of 29. They've still got a little way to go. And with no battery, whilst managing that DRS in front. If you make one mistake, or if the car ahead doesn't make any, then you do risk losing every advantage that you have. That is a loss of connection. We continue. 22.5 second gap. So Maxon looking to try and get an extra pit stop in this race. Go for medium time maybe if they have them available. But they might have selected a second set of hards. They might just go for a random fresh set of tyres and try and go quickly on it. Edvir, 1 second away. DRS does look to be lost. It's just about held onto. That's impressive. And that's frustrating for Igor, who's driven a mega few laps to maintain that gap to 2.6, as they had it previously in the extra that final corner, 2.4. It goes back up slightly, but that is still a brilliant game, or at least effort to maintain any gap that they have to the car ahead. DRS, is it gone? Does it stay? It is. Done. Done for Edvir. And it's now going to be an opportunity for Igor to catch up, and you can see Jericho Willis pushed on the battery there to try and make sure that the Williams was not in their DRS. That's where you could see the 1.7-second gain. Absolutely rapid in a straight line for a second, solidifying their situation. And now it's 2.0 seconds. Eager Pro tries to make progress. This has worked out perfectly for Jericho Willis. They've had a front wing change. They managed to get ahead of another car. They managed to prevent Eager Pro from catching up too quickly and then getting into clean air. And by the time Eager Pro is going to be looking to try and catch up to Jericho Willis, well, that's not really going to be the case, because they have to try and attack another car and then stay ahead of them. And with the final laps of the race coming up, especially by the time we expect Eager Pro to be able to go from attack, then Edvir's going to give them a good old battle and probably extend the gap enough for Jericho Willis to not need to worry about the Aston Martin. Not disrespect to Edvir at all, because they've done a phenomenal job and they've played the strategy as best as they possibly could. But right now, on paper, Eager Pro and Jericho Willis are the faster cars. DRS not available for the Aston Martin this time around. And luckily for the Williams, they will be safe from being overtaken. But on the next lap, they cannot be promised that safety. DRS range is gained by Eager Pro already. Now it's all about keeping it consistent and getting a good exit to make the run down. The pit lane, the pit lane, the pit lane. What's the pit lane for? Going for the double stop. Eager Pro's not happy with the tyre wear. I did not expect that at all. The medium tyre it will be for Eager Pro. I thought they were going to be good to go to the end of the Grand Prix. They've decided they're not, and that mixes everything up. Absolutely crazy. Sulkin not as far away as they thought they would have been, to be honest. But of course, Sulkin has had to go for that other pit stop as well. So it's such a shame to see Sulkin's race pretty much being validated from the beginning. That being said, 10 points on the board would still be great. They finished ahead of Tom Robb in the end. Eager Pro, medium tyre, looking for a fastest lap. Will that be taken away by Samaxon, who I assume is going to try and go for another pit stop in this race to make sure that they maximise their hanging lights and performance? But 17.2 seconds to try and catch up to Edgar and Jericho Willis. Well, it's either Jericho and Ed will pit now and react to Eager Pro behind, or they'll stay out for the rest of the race. And we see Jericho Willis is going to be staying out for the rest of the race. They have no questions about their strategy. Edgar is going to do the same. It's 16.5 seconds that we have to see Eager Pro try and bring down. That's the battle that we're going to be watching. It's going to be a long battle, that's for sure. And there's the penalty situation. Still 3 seconds for Samaxon. It's been the same way since lap 2. Eager Pro going all the way up to the curb to try and maximise their track usage. And looking for a qualifying performance lap time here. Of course, their car is a lot heavier than it would have been for qualifying, of course. Definitely the dry qualifying. But continuing to push that car to the limit, you can see the pace advantage that they have. Watching Edvir go through this final chicane, you can see they are giving it a good shot. Eager Pro having the grip, having the performance. You'll watch how fast they manage, or they travel through this chicane here. That is a big, big difference. But is it 13 seconds difference? That's the question. I'm not convinced, but I'm willing to be convinced. Eager Pro is giving us a show here. There's not too much on track right now, but there is a hunt for prey. The push for glory, the push for the podium, trying to get a step higher. That's Gigapro's mission. That's 11.6 seconds now, you call it. Still gaining massively. Having to push even harder. Those tyres are going to be tricky at the end. Sulkin, who looks for a fast lap here at this stage, once again onto the soft tyre as they assume haven't got any medium tyres left. Unless they go for a double set of soft to try and gain more performance, but they are now behind Simaxon, so will end up, of course, completing one lap less of this race. And we watch on board with the race leader actually, just for a moment to see, check in, screen time. Travelling through the fast chicane. Nice and relaxed at this stage of a 24-second advantage they have. And then we see Gigapro. Who will travel through that same chicane. In a few moments' time, they do go 0.3 a lap slower in the first sector at least than their previous best. That just shows how hard these medium tyres really do drop. 5 tenths in the middle sector. Still massively ahead of Edgar. Of course on performance. But these cars should be good to go to the end. But obviously they will also continue to get older and older as we continue to race. 2 seconds disadvantage on their previous best. Gigapro crosses the line. 9 tenths away. And that's off their previous best. So if you see the fastest lap difference, or not their previous best, but their fastest lap. 20.4 for Edgar and 19.5 for Igor, about a lap in it. Oh, sorry, second advantage over the lap. Second lap. 7.2 seconds, continuing to close up. I don't see a way that Jericho Willis will be pressured by the Aston Martin. I see a chance for Igor to catch up to Edvir, but I also see a chance for both drivers to be struggling on tyre life and will possibly end up be stuck behind each other. That pressure is going to be brutal, of course, for Ed, as they'll want to try and push as much as they can to stay ahead. Gigapro is in a rhythm, so their pressure right now is going to be less because they've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. But by the time they get to the end of the race, their tyres are going to be very old. 6.1 seconds now. And been an impressive stint so far from the Serbian, but is it enough? Is the 2-stop strategy advantageous? They've thrown a little bit away, try and gain back a little bit more. I don't think they'll gain even more than that, but they have a fight to regain what they could have had earlier. I don't believe they overtook Edgar in the end. He stayed behind Edgar. They allowed that one to happen. Now they're 5 seconds away so far from where they were before. Sulkin, time penalty. They are actually racing very closely with the Maxim. They're trying to gain some performance on this tyre, of course, but they don't want to really interfere with the Maxon too much, so they are just sitting directly behind them. That being said, maybe it's the Maxon regaining some performance now, as this soft tyre is very, very old. DRS available, the Sauber car. Would they try and go for an overtake here? Into turn 11, they will try and unlap themselves as expected. Into the braking zone, they will get ahead. And now they go for the push. But pushing ahead of the champion and the championship leader. And by the time we end this race, the championship winner. Not going to be easy to break away. Lap 20 out of 29 is started by the race leader. It's about to be, well, it is currently the penultimate lap here for Sulkin, as long as we see that switch as expected. There it is. Jericho Willis, 27 seconds back. In P2, a brilliant effort, a brilliant fight they had earlier on. It's 9.3 seconds away from him is Edveer, and it's 2.8 seconds away for Eager Pro, who's got 2 laps to try and gain. They've been a second a lap faster in previous runs. So in theory, they're there, just about. But they will need a mistake from the Williams to be able to go for the overtake. The pace advantage is enough. It's just whether they can get that little bit extra to go for that overtake, and it's whether they have the resource to even go for that overtake as well. Coming through the flat section, this is what they're hating. They don't want to be on the straights. They want to be in the corners where they gain a lot more performance. Straight lines are your worst enemy. Luckily for Eager Pro, they seem to have the advantage in a straight line over the Williams car up in front of them. 1.8 seconds, gaining more in the final sector here. And really, as I said, they've got one more lap to make it work. They've effectively got half a lap to make it work. They've got to be there before the detection zone at turn 6, turn 7. And right now, it looks like they might have a chance. It's 1.2 seconds. Edveer is at risk. After all of this, I thought it might not be possible. 1.2 seconds. Eager Pro has to get that now or never. A little bit more, and they might have it. We've got Maxon coming into the final few corners, but this battle is being watched. And Eager Pro catches more than ever in the corners. And now we get to the straight. Eager Pro watching on board, has the car in his sights. He aims down. Is he going to shoot? Is he going to hit the target? Will Edveer try and defend? There's no battery. It's just DRS. Oh, and it's going to be a tight one. They're not going to be able to get there right now, but turn 11 is their next call. DRS once again. What's it going to be? Inside or outside? The outside is the one of choice. Edveer defends. It's very tight. It's very tight. As long as they keep composed, it might be enough up to the line. It's Maxon who wins the Australian Grand Prix and is champion for both summer season championships. It's Jericho Willis across the line for P2, but there's going to be a run up to the line. Eager Pro pushing with all his might. DRS available. What's it going to be? It's just going to be enough for Edveer to get there in the end. A brilliant, brilliant effort right there from Eager Pro, though. You have to say well done to him. What a race. In the final moments, but Maxon on another level cannot be touched. And that is that. Maxon takes victory in Australia. It's Jericho Willis in P2 with Edveer in P3, just holding off Eager Pro in the end. It's Selkin in P5, having that issue on the opening lap, and it's Tom Robb DNFing a little bit earlier into this race. The race director is on your screen now. Very tricky circuit here in Australia. There's the pit stop. We'll be back for the post-race interviews. We'll see you in a bit. Oliver, whoa, that was not due to the microphone there. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the post-race interviews of the Australian Grand Prix. That was pretty crazy. In the end, Jericho, we start with you. Really frustrating, of course, in turn one. But of course, there was a sprint race as well. Qualifying was a hell of a gamble with that intermediate tire. It almost worked out for you.
Yeah. Well, in this game, it's funny. It's rare that the wet tire is actually faster. And so I really did not expect the full wet tire to be faster by the end of the session. So usually if you're on the intermediate and you just kind of stick with it throughout the session, you have a really good feeling for the tire as the track is progressing. And to be honest, I think I probably made the right decision. I should have left my last lap a little bit later. I probably could have started it, 45 seconds or a minute later. Would have had a little bit more there, and then I didn't have a perfect lap. It was a decent lap, but it wasn't a perfect lap. And then to be that close to Simax, and he's quite a bit quicker in general. So I think it worked out, and it was pretty close to the best qualifying result I think I could have hoped for.
Yeah, must have been a little bit gut wrenching though, because you're just so close to getting to that P1. Turn one. Do you think if you were P1, you might have had a chance at leading instead of having an incident?
Well, if I was P1, yeah, my start was good. You could see my start was better than some accidents because I did get alongside of them. And so if I was ahead, my starts have been good, getting better, I should say. They've been poor in the past, but they've been getting better lately. I have been practicing them a lot. And if I start on the softer of the two available compounds or the two usable compounds, then I've been consistently getting good starts. That creates problems because then you challenge for a position. Today, I knew with some actions pace and with where he is in the championship that I really, if I had an opportunity to push for the lead on the first lap or in the first couple of corners, I really needed to take it. And because if I didn't, he's just so quick in the first couple of laps. If I could even stay within DRS, that would have been fortunate. And then after that, forget about it. So really, if I could get alongside of him and get him behind me, and then anything could happen behind me. So that was the goal. It didn't quite work out. I think it was a 50-50. I could have turned in earlier, and he could have given me a little more space. And so I think 50% responsibility for each one of us. So hopefully next time we go into turn one together, we'll both take that into account, and it'll work out a little bit better.
Sure. Awesome. Brazil, the next circuit, it's green and yellow cubs once again, whether you're there or not. That's got a bit of a tricky turn one as well, actually. It can be quite difficult to travel side by side because of the nature of it, as it naturally bends left. Do you like that circuit or not really?
I like the circuit. My ultimate pace doesn't seem to be that great there, but I'm judging that off of the previous game. I haven't really done much on this current game. So once we switch over and start practicing, I'll see what kind of pace I can come up with. But expecting to be somewhere in the midfield. So if I can do that, that'll be great. If I can really get on top of it, that would certainly be exciting. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I can't wait. I'll see you then. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
And we move on to Selkin. Selkin, such a shame to see it end that way pretty much immediately into the first corner. Yeah, there's not really too much to say on that one. What were you hoping for today? You didn't have that incident. And also, what happened ahead of you from what
From my point of view, I got a good start. Was side by side with Igor. Was into turn one, and I saw Jericho and Simaxon battling, and they're really fast drivers both. But I think Jericho got a bit too excited by having that good start, so he managed to spin out. I crashed into him, got front wing damage, and lost out the pack from there. Hope for podium contention today, but the pace were not there after a crash, and it was quite a bad race.
Yeah, It's frustrating. It's also even more difficult when there's less drivers on the grid. So to stay in the race and do what you did, I massively respect the really good effort. Thank you for that. I do appreciate it. Brazil, it's a lot easier to race at. The turn one is a little bit more open. If you can stay out of troubles in the first corner, how do you like that circuit, regardless if you are there?
Yeah, I like the Brazil circuit, and I will be practicing, hoping for podium contention there. Hope there will be some more drivers today at Saturdays. So, yeah, would be nice to not lose the front wing at Brazil, but like the track. So, I will hope to be there at next week.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to the next opportunity to get through the first corner. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you.
And we move on to Sir Maxon. Sir Maxon, that was a pretty dominant performance there. Battling, of course, behind. Also, with that slight incident, allowed you to break away pretty much immediately. There was a sprint race, of course, as well, that you had a little bit of a battle with Igor. I say a battle, followed you for a bit. What's the secret around Australia?
I don't know. Maybe low wings.
My rings. How
Like
low?
really, it could be just free under your wing.
3. Okay. Is that what you were running today?
Yes,
Wow. Okay.
and yesterday and on Monday. Yeah,
Wow.
that is it. So yeah, went quite smoothly through Q1. Then comes, I mean, the not Q1. Why am I talking about Q1? The one shot quali, yeah, managed to got pole by my second, then sprint, got that, I don't know, good enough start on those hards, managed to stay ahead, and just, I don't know, driving to the win. I knew that the mediums of Iger would drop off, and dropped off quickly, as I didn't even need to really overtake him, and then the qualifying, it was wet. I expected some other drivers on those high downforce setups to be quick, but I did my last lap. I did 2 laps in the row at the end, and my last lap was, I think, starting with 20% battery. Still improved by 4 tenths, so yeah.
Yeah, I thought qualifying was already decided, to be honest, because I completely blanked you out, and then you crossed the line and took it. So well done.
Yeah, to be honest, I think as Jericho was using inters on the last run went better. I don't think they were better through the whole quali, but on the last run, I really saw like the availability of grip, and then also just the dry line to use the inters, and I think they would have been faster. But yeah, and then the race just made a little mistake, turned into early, and I know why I turned into early. I can in a moment explain it to Jericho, but yeah. And after that, 3 second gap turned into, I think, 13
penalty.
before. Yeah, also 3 second penalty because I started talking about construction with Sulkin, and like some just things that you can put in a wall to make the house warmer.
Insulation.
You're a little distracted, and then I was also distracted on thinking what I did wrong in turn 1. So got the 3 second and just yeah. The gap between me and Jericho turned into 13 seconds at the pits, and then I think in the middle of my hard stint, I had to close my window, so just, yeah, I think I lost 2-3 seconds by that, but yeah, managed to get it back at the end and finishing with a 28-second gap with some interesting ending with Sulkin on softs. So, yeah.
A little bit of entertainment there at the end. Yeah, we're definitely going to need to ask a few questions to see what your secret is for Brazil, because I kind of want to do it, so I need some help on that side. Brazil, it's a very different circuit, whether that you're there or not. Do you prefer a circuit that's kind of more raceable, that kind of is compared to like Australia? Do you like the DRS side of it, even though Australia is also quite a bit of a training circuit? Do you prefer the opposite?
I hate DRS trains. So no, I do not like Brazil, and I never really had the pace on it, as you probably know. With the struggles that I had in the last game, probably also having this game, but I don't think I will be there. I have a family meeting, and maybe I'll join, but if I will join, probably will like almost non-practice. So yeah, I'll see how much other travels will be doing, and if there will be enough, I'll probably maybe also join. Depending on how tired I will be at the evening.
Yeah. Well, if we can see you, that would be great, and we're looking forward to that. But if not, I'll say congratulations on both championships, drivers' titles. Well done indeed, very well deserved. Started off F125 to a very good start, and we'll see you next time. Well done.
Thank you.
And that's
Good
been
job.
it for the post-race interviews. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you next weekend for the Brazilian Grand Prix, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.